So in today's War Thunder video, we're going to be going over all of my keybinds, all the graphics settings that I use with the game, sound settings, and with all the peripherals that I use to play War Thunder. So as of right now, even if you're not looking to watch this video because you have all of your stuff completely figured out, do this right now. Go down to this setting right here in your controls, export your control settings to some sort of file, hit save, and then you'll always have your controls no matter what you do. And even I would recommend uploading it to like a Discord server that you have privately, or just uploading it to like Google Drive, for example, to where you can always get that back whenever you want to do that. But if you're doing this, where you're going to be copying my keybinds, I will have that same file within the Discord. So you'll be able to go to my Discord and then get it. And then even if you just want to leave after that, you can. But that'll be the easiest way to just completely get everything that I have whenever it comes to War Thunder. Now, the first thing to know is that if you're very new to War Thunder, you'll find your settings up at the top left up here. You have options and as well as you have controls. So first, we're going to be going over the option settings, which are the main things that you can change, like HUD, UI elements, all that sort of stuff. And the first one we'll be going over is our main parameters. You do have graphics, sound, voice, and as well as internet radio. Internet radio is completely worthless if you have Spotify or something. But the main one that you want to focus on is the main parameters. It's the ones that we're going to be going over first. So from the main parameters, this first one right here, the only ones that you really probably will have to change is your UI scale, depending on what your monitor is. Your gamma correction, for me at least, I have it maxed out. I don't think I've ever played with this thing much to see what it will do, but if you want to copy me, it is maxed out. Auto login is pretty much a must if you just play on the same computer every day. But the big one upon all of this sort of stuff is the post FX settings. This is mine. I have this setting right here. I believe it's on by default, turned off. I personally did not like it, and the only thing that I have a little bit on is the cockpit sharpness, but everything else is completely either default or disabled, and I do most of the like post effects color correction stuff within the monitor itself, so that's why I have that. And also, whenever you're watching these videos, guys, remember that I do color correction whenever it comes to the videos themselves to make them look a little bit better. So that is why sometimes you may see it, like I'll even put up a clip now of like the differences within the colors. But here we go, we're on the common battle settings. For me at least, 100% on the damage indicator scale is pretty good. Camera shake, turn this one off. Sense of flight, turn it off. And then also automatic join of squads, turn this one on, because whenever you're playing War Thunder, you can randomly get put into a squad mate, and it's just free RP and SL because you can get best squads with it. You can also get some, I believe, like supporting fires. So it is just worthwhile putting this on, and you should just get some free stuff every once in a while from your other teammate. The next one is join already active battles. Turn this one off because once again, this is one of those things kind of annoying. You'll join late into a battle. The battle could already be ongoing for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then people will have a competitive advantage from you because they will be at strategic positions and you will be either taking off from the runway or they'll be already capturing capture points and stuff. So it's not that fun. The next one is air battle settings. This one's more of a like preference because you can have a ton of these colors. Like look at how many colors there are. For me at least, I like this orange color, and this one is mainly for the radar. So whenever you're looking at your radars within your planes. The second one is the top left whenever it shows your HUD. So like your ammo count, your fuel, your weapon, all that sort of stuff. That's what this one does. And then aircraft air alerts. I'm not 100% sure what this does, but yeah, it's one of those things. The next one is default view. Third person view is what I would do because I don't play some. The next one is gun targeting distance. This is a very important one. And this is one, if you're very new to War Thunder, I would recommend getting used to one and sticking with it. So for me, I've always loved 500 meters. And what this does is imagine that you have wing-mounted guns. So imagine you're in like a P-47, for example. The thing that you want your guns to do is you want them to converge to a particular point. And once they converge, you do the maximum amount of damage. For me, that would be 500 meters away from whenever I'm shooting. The thing about it is if you put it down to 50, which I can even show you guys real quick, like let's take actually the P-47 so we give a better example of this. But the reason you would want to do something like this is because, let's say we put it to 50, and we should be able to show it on the runway right here. Look at how much they converge at the point right there. Like you're not hitting nothing with that. Now, if we go back and we put it back to 500, which is what I normally run, you can see a huge difference whenever it comes to this sort of plane. Like it gives you a lot more leeway to actually shoot stuff, and it's very much a preferential thing. But once again, see, as you can see right there, they converge at 500 meters away, which means the potential damage that I'll ever have is 500 meters away from the plane. Now, it really doesn't affect planes like, for example, the Sabres, like the Sabre F5, for example, because as you can see, the guns are within the nose right there, so it makes it a little bit not as effective. But wing-mounted guns, you can see a huge difference whenever it comes to that setting. So the next keybind we have is vertical targeting, and this is a very interesting one because it really doesn't do much. for most planes. Now, the thing about vertical targeting is that it's like let's just say that you have a very low velocity cannon and then you have a very high velocity 50 cal. The main purpose of vertical targeting is to make both of those like weapons actually hit in the same position at a certain distance, right? So the thing about it is in War Thunder is this is the setting you either play with off your whole entire War Thunder career or you play with it on. Because if you turn this off and then you turn it on, you'll see that you'll just miss shots and you'll do random stuff. So it's got to be a very huge thing you got to make an investment to. Do you actually turn this on and keep it on like I do? Or if you've been playing with it off, I would just prefer that you keep it off. It's one of the biggest things about the vertical targeting actual setting. Now the next one is bomb fuse. For me at least, 2 seconds is what I normally run for all bombs. It gets out of the way for at least using it as a cast. Up to around like a 2,000 pound bomb, like you'll be able to just run away from it whenever you drop it on the enemy. So honestly, this is what my thing is, and also it gives you enough time to just get away, and then it doesn't give enough time for an enemy tank to get away, so that's what I usually do. Bomb series is a keybind that you can do that you can actually just like drop more bombs at a single time. I have a keybind for this, which just drops pretty much everything at once. I've never had a reason to use like the bomb series thing, but it could be a very useful thing to do whenever you have like guiding munitions like CCIP and stuff. So if you want to try that, you can, but for me, I just kind of just do the normal thing I've been doing for like 13 years at this point. So the next one is countermeasure series. These two are for your automatic countermeasures. It's a keybind that you can turn on. We'll talk about it in the future. I honestly don't use any of this whenever it comes to that. I just have Shift and Z as my countermeasures now whenever it comes to flares and also chaff. But yeah, you can make it to where it's automatic whenever it comes to that. For me at least, I don't really use any of that. Show cockpit. This one's just a given. Do you want your cockpit to be, or do you want your pilot in the cockpit? If that's something that you want, you can just turn it on. If you need more performance, you can definitely turn it off to help save just a little bit more performance, especially if you play like sim or something. So auto mode, so autopilot for gunner and bomber sight. This one's a cool one because I think this one's defaulted to on, but if you have this one off, and hang on, I'll have to show it to you to kind of have to actually show this off, like what's something I can do as like a bomber sight. Since I was lazy and really just wanted to have an air spawn and not take off with a bomber, I took this thing out. So as you can see right here, if you go into the bomber sight with that setting on, like where was it at? It was air battle setting. We turn this one, where's it at? It's this one. Okay, so we turn this one on always. Whenever you're in the bomber like view, you will not be able to like turn as much as you can whenever it comes to that. It would always level itself out. Now this can be quite a problem for one reason and one reason only, is that you can't really control this because it's always wanting to go back into a level state. Now if you go and turn this setting off again and you put it to no, you're actually able to use this thing like you always want to, and it'll always keep the way that it's going. See, I'm banking right now. It's going to level itself out just because that's how planes do, but it's not pulling as much whenever it comes to that. See, I can keep it right there pretty much all the time. Like mouse is off the keyboard, everything. I'm not controlling this thing at all, and it makes it to where you can actually control this thing a lot easier. And for using it as cast and stuff like that, it is very much worth doing. So that's what that setting does. It's basically kind of like an instructor. It just takes over the plane for you whenever you go into the bomber view, and it kind of levels itself out for you. So these next settings are pretty much just give me settings. I would always just put these on. Automatic aircraft rearm on airfield, completely turn that one on. Enable laser, turn that one on. There's not really a reason to turn it off from the start. Auto enable lock after shooting. I'm not sure what exactly this one does, but turn it on. I've always had it on, never seen nothing about it. Seeker automation, automatic stabilization, turn this one on. This one is one that I would actually turn off. Now the reason I turn this one off is because we have ranging radars in the game, and ranging radars within the game for at least an ARB sense and AB sense are just completely worthless to me. So I'm never going to use them. And then also all it does is require you to play like the F-16, like in the background right here. You just have to turn it on whenever it comes to your radars. So I do have a keybind for that whenever we get to that portion of the video, but this one I have off, and I'll show you why, because like I think a lot of people don't realize this. So if you go down to, let's just say the Sabre F2, play this one for a second. We'll show you something here. Is that if we turn the radar on, there we go. See that thing at the right of your screen? It's there all the time, unless you turn your radar back off. So I always just play with it off because of that whole thing, because the ranging radar doesn't do much other than just tell you the range of an aircraft. And for an ARB sense, that's pretty much worthless. So the next setting here is use rectangle radar indicator. This is a setting that is kind of interesting because it depends on what you really prefer. It's one of those other ones that like, do you prefer it to be the old way? So like as you can see right here, we turn it on that's what it looks like. It has the like square. If we turn that control off and we go back to that one and then find it, because it's a little bit different. Where is it at again? It is, use this one. We turn it off, that's what your radar looks like. So it really depends on what you prefer. I like the square one just because, to me at least, I get more information out of it and it's a little bit easier to read for me. So that's why I like it, but it's definitely one of those preferential things. And it's just like vertical targeting, where you will probably just need to get used to one of them and stick to it pretty much forever. So next setting we have here is target signal switching of aircraft radar. Now this one has nothing to go against it of what it is, which is kind of sad because it's one of those things that's very complex to actually talk about. So what this is it's basically like, here's the best way to put it. Whenever you play a vehicle with TWS mode, you have it to where it would automatically go towards the aircraft. As we can see right here, if we put this thing in TWS, once we get into the area where we can actually see the MiG-15, you'll see that it automatically goes towards the target itself. So let's get into there and then I'll show you. So as we can see right here with TWS, it automatically locks it to where I can go ahead and shoot a Sparrow at the enemy. Now what this signal mode does is once you turn it off, let's see right here, where was it at? Again, this is a little bit different compared to here. There we go. Turned it off. You now have this. Now it's still going to track it because we didn't switch it out, but if we switch to search radar and then we'll go back to TWS, unless we have it within that box right there, it will not be able to actually lock it and shoot off a missile to it, which is kind of a sad thing. See, as we can do it right there, we lock it and we have a lock where we're actually able to shoot. Now we'd have to track it again because we've kind of lost the actual plane again. But to me at least, I don't prefer this setting. It's one of those things that I feel like you could have, like if you're able to master this setting, it would be a good one to actually have on. But as far as I know, as of right now, whenever I'm playing like this plane right here, I would just sort of have this mode. So I'm just able to lock something and then I'm able to fire it. Like that's, to me at least, just going to be the easiest way to do this. So the next settings that we have here is constant elevation of radar antenna. As far as I know for this one, this is more or less more of a thing to go on top of this one right here, the cyclical switching thing, of where it's cool to have if you can master it. But honestly, just putting it to on is probably going to be the best bet for like majority of players. What it does is it basically makes it to where you can go up and down with your radar and kind of change the areas that it is searching. But overall, I'll just recommend putting this one to yes if you're very new at the game. But if you want to experiment, you can definitely turn it off and try to mess with all the settings. The next one is RWR sensitivity. I have this one at 100. I don't think I've ever changed this, so I'm not going to change it now. The next one is use radar HUD in cockpit. All these are yes, RWR in cockpit as well. If you're going to play sim, probably a given to do this as well. The only thing about it is it's probably a little bit of immersion braking if you want to have these modes, but overall, that's what I would recommend. This one's another one, activate countermeasures on spawn. I don't know why you would turn this one off, but definitely turn it on. It is 100% recommended to do. Air radar skill, I have this one at 100. The crosshair is another one that you can very much like do what you preference, and probably it's another setting that once you get to one of them, you probably want to stick to it. For me at least, I've always did the circle with the dot and then also just red as my crosshair for pretty much 12 years now. So this is definitely the one that I would go for if you want something, of my opinion, but just kind of play with them for a little bit and see which one that you prefer. So the next keybind we have here is that you're going to do with up at the top left right now. As you can see, there's two speeds. I have indicated airspeed and also have just speed. Both of those are very, very, very different, even though I'm going Mach 1.23. Now the setting from that is actually for, do you want to have true airspeed or do you want to have indicated airspeed? Now for me at least, and I think, yeah, I can change right here. I think, to me at least, the best one to go for is going to be indicated airspeed. You don't really need both of them. But for me, I've been playing this game since 2013 and I just never changed it. It's one of those things that I'm very, very used to. I just use true airspeed. I know it's a sin. I should probably be using IS, but I never could get used to it. And if you're new at the game or you've been playing for like 2 or 3 months, just switch it to IS, getting used to IS, and it's way, way better because you can determine a lot more things whenever it comes to your plane of what it does and everything. But for me, I've just been so used to that number at the top left, I've just never changed it. But it's a very bad habit. I wish I could break it. So and then we're finally at the bottom for air battle settings, and we have show lead. This is an arcade marker thing, so if you play arcade, you want to put this on. The next one is disabled aircraft damage. This one is going to be good because it tells you what damage on your aircraft. Like let's just say that you get hit by a 20mm. It tells you what is damaged, like is your flaps gone, is your elevator gone, all that sort of stuff, and it'll pop up on your screen. Now this one's an interesting one, is camera from aircraft gunner sight. Now I'll once again have to show you this one because it's one that's kind of hard to explain. If you take, for example, an IL-2, which I don't think that one, yeah, that one does have a back gunner. I believe one of these do. Yeah, the 37. So if we take the 37 with the back gunner, you'll see there's actually a difference if you have that setting on. So if we go into the gunner, see, we have a very wide angle view for the gunner. Now, if we go turn that setting on, if we do this one, camera from gunner thing, you get into this one. To me, at least, this one's easier to shoot, because it's basically just aiming at it and firing, but you lose a ton of FOV whenever it comes to that, and we'll just leave this setting on because I want to show someone else about it. If it only works if your plane has one gunner. So let's just go, for example, let's go to the PE-8, which has multiple gunners. It will no longer just go to just one of them like that. It will go directly back to this mode, even though that setting is clicked on. So it's definitely one of those that I prefer to just keep off because it's only valid on certain vehicles that have only one gunner. And to me, at least, it's not the best thing in the world, but it is a little bit easier to aim, just depending on how you kind of prefer to play the game. But honestly, I just keep it off. Now, the next one is automatic activation of aircraft weapon selector at mission start. I have this one off just because I don't use the weapon selector for all planes. I normally just use this towards the top tier of the game, but if I'm playing like a P-51, I don't really ever just take my weapon selector and use that sort of thing. The next one is activation of automatic bomb release and CCRP. I just have this one on. It's just your CCRP. It automatically enables it, which I don't think is a huge thing. So the last setting in air battle settings we're going to be looking at is empty weapon containers automatic jettison. So what this does is whenever you have a rocket pod, for example, like for the Bison right here, if we shoot off all these rockets, it automatically got rid of the pod, right? So if we go into settings, and I really hope this works, I hope it doesn't like take it as a like spawn. But if we turn this one off, what it will do is once we fire these rockets, let's see here, instead of it being where it actually jettisons the rocket pod, it actually just keeps it on. Now, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, even though it's probably not realistic, I believe most countries would want their equipment to come back home with them, it is very much worth just turning this setting on because you still have a ton of drag whenever it comes to your rocket pods and whatever else is not jettisoned. As you can see, he would jettison it right there once we turn the setting on. So, in my opinion, turn this one on. Even if you're a realistic nerd, it is one of those things that just helps your plane out. Alright, for the helicopter section here, we're not going to go over much because I don't really play helicopters enough to have an informed opinion on what any of this stuff really does. But here's my settings. If you want to copy them, be my guest. But honestly, I don't play much helicopters, so this is normally what I have. Now let's look at the ground forces settings whenever it comes to War Thunder. The first one we have is grass and tank sight. This one is one that you should always just have off. I realize for a lot of people, this is probably one of those that's like, oh, it's a historical thing, or oh, it's realistic, it's emerging braking that people do this. But if you don't do this, you are at such a disadvantage whenever it comes to War Thunder. Because as you can see right here, if we go down into this little defilade, you see all that grass? It's just gone. We go into the options and we go to ground and we turn this on. Watch. Look at how much you can't see anymore. So this is 100% a setting I would recommend turning off. Even if you're someone who is like, oh, I want to play super duper realistic War Thunder, because most people already have it off and they don't care that you want to play an immersion game, to be quite honest with you. The next one is the player ground destruction replay. This one's always good to have on, especially if you're newer at the game, because you'll be able to see where people shot you from and you can actually, get kind of new positions and all that sort of stuff from that. Hit camera is a good one to have as well, because it tells you what you're actually hitting, and then also what is done damage whenever you shoot somebody in. Camera from gun, tank sight. I should actually just do this one again. Let's take a better vehicle than the QF Ram. The Ram's actually a pretty bad one. But let's take this one. So, the thing about this setting is whenever you're aiming, your gun normally shoots directly through there, right? So if we go into the options again and we go to ground and then we put this one on, we should have parallax whenever it comes to that, and also your tank cannon is into the sight. It also should not shoot straight until a certain distance, but it can still be usable. But overall, in my opinion, it's still just better off to use that one whenever it comes to that. Just take this setting right here and turn it off, because it's just so much better to shoot from the tank, and then there's no parallax, there's nothing with it, so it's just easier to do at the day of things. So next keybind we have here is show damage modules. Honestly, just turn this one on, you're able to see more stuff. I don't think it's really negative to have on. Automatic activation of ground radar at the start of mission. This one's a personal preference. Some people like to keep it off so they don't ping planes whenever they first spawn in, but also at the same time you can just turn it off with a keybind. So honestly, it's one of those things. It's kind of like a personal preference. Do you want to spawn in and not get any radar pings for RWRs? I would turn this one off. This one's the same thing as the one whenever it comes to TWS mode for the aircraft, is it means that you're able to actually kind of move around the cursor and then you're able to select stuff manually. But honestly, I have this one on and it just works to me. I don't really think this one's a huge one to actually turn on. Activate countermeasures on spawn. I'm not really sure. Maybe this is smoke. Maybe that's a countermeasure for tanks. So just keep this one on. It's probably smoke grenades or something like that. Tactical map scale. I have this one at 133%. Store tactical map zoom by scenery. No, I don't have that one. Show compass in third person. Yes. Color scheme of thermal imaging sights. This one's a personal preference, but the best one is still white. If you go to green or red, you're just playing this for like immersion. But yeah, everyone uses white. Block vertical aiming while braking. I don't have this one on just because I want the crew to do multiple things at a time. And even if I'm braking right, so like, I don't know, I'm not going to really show it's not that important. Just keep this one off. But what it does is whenever you're braking your tank, it doesn't move the vertical of your tank cannons, which means that, like, let's say that you're braking to shoot an enemy, your cannon won't move there to shoot, like, before that happens, right? So that's the easiest way to put that one. Include commander view in a viewer list. This one I have no, because you can have it as a keybind. And to be quite honest with you, I never really use the commander view that much anyway. So I just have it as a keybind. But yeah, if you put it in one of these, you'll be able to switch to it through that. But honestly, it's just another like key press to go into your binoculars or go into your actual gunner view. Save direction while switching current trigger. Not sure what that is, but I have it off. I don't think I've ever used it. This one's an important one to do. Tank machine gun ammo indication. Turn this one on so you're able to see how much MGs you have left on your tank. Use sim flight hit indicator. I have this one no, and then laser one and receiver stuff at the bottom. I just have all this stuff at the default. So yeah, we went over the important stuff, so we're just going to do some quick fire stuff whenever it comes to naval. These are all my naval settings. I don't think I've ever changed anything whenever it comes to default. Battle settings, I have all this sort of stuff. My nameplates are a little bit different compared to what defaults are, but you can change it. All this stuff is mainly just personal preference, except for these two right here. So this one, these three. You always want to put these on, because what this does is if you have these two only simulator or whatever setting they have, they do not show up on your plane. So fuel is very important. You got to know how much fuel you have left within your planes. Your ammo indicator is also very important to know how much cannon rounds or how much MG rounds you have. And also your temperature is very important to see if you're going to overheat your planes whenever it comes to that. So these three, always put them to always, and then they'll show up at the top or left of your screen whenever you're playing. Overall, these are the ones that I have on. Just copy them. Like, I don't really think they're a huge thing. Measurement units. Once again, this is a personal preference. You can be like me and be a crazy person and have miles per hour, meters, and then also your distance and all this sort of stuff being just wacky. But that's how I play this game. Don't judge me. The next one is player markers. I have all this stuff on. Chat and voice chat. Don't use that at all. Gamepad. Don't really use that at all either because I'm not a console pleb. Replays, spectator mode. Here you go. And then the customization of vehicles. This one just goes for, like, if you want to see marketplace camos and stuff like that. You can do everything except fictional, and then that one's pretty cool. The privacy thing, this is a big thing that people ask me all the time, is how do you hide your name within the game? This is where you do it. You go to here, and then you can also, you can remove some of your stuff, like display leaderboards, allow friends to add you, and all that sort of stuff. You can change player nicknames as well, but overall, I just keep it as all these. Now this one's another one that you can do with other settings. Holiday region, you have that, and then that's all there is. So let's get on to the graphics settings, because that's a big one that people want to actually know about as well. I've gotten like 5 billion comments whenever it comes to this, and this is what I run. It's amazing, ain't it? I run just movie. That's all that I ever run. So the reason I do this is because I don't really ever want to have to like go through my graphics settings when I fix something. I just use the default of whatever Gaijin gives me, and that's what I basically run with. If I was going to run something more competitive and make the game look a little bit worse but have more of a competitive advantage, I'd probably go down here to medium or high, just because it gives you a little bit more, just like differences within the battlefield that you're actually able to pick out tanks and all that sort of stuff as well. But the big things to note about graphics settings is if you have a NVIDIA card, you're actually able to put on DLSS. DLSS is a hit or miss thing. If you're having trouble with FPS, then I would definitely recommend actually putting it on. But like, let's try something right quick with the T80U, and I'll show you something that DLSS does mess with that I personally don't have it on for. So if we put it on even like just balance, whenever That was probably going to crash, isn't it? Did it crash OBS? Hopefully not. But if you put it on balance, you can see there's tracers. They're very blocky and they're also very huge. And I don't really like that because whenever you're like shooting at a plane, for example, the tracer itself can block out where you're actually shooting at. And you can't really tell where you're shooting at. So for me at least, what I like to do is I don't like to run this at all. I have it off completely. I have a 4070 Super, so I don't really need to ever use this. But you see how little the tracers are now? Like they're vastly smaller than they were on the DLSS mode. So that's why I never run that whenever it comes to War Thunder. So that's the easiest way of doing that. The other graphics settings that I do run, though, is NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency. This one I run on Boost. What this does is it takes out some of the latency between your graphics card and then also the game. So it just makes it a little bit better. You know, we do have latency whenever it comes to ping and packet loss and all that sort of stuff. So anything to decrease latency, I always run on. But yeah, other than that, those are the only two things that I change other than just throwing this thing on the movie, throwing it at 1440p, and then also throwing it to full screen window just because I'm able to tab out a little bit quicker and a little bit better whenever it comes to that. So next we're going to look at here is actually my sound settings. So my sound settings, I have sound enabled. If you don't have it, I'm very sorry, but yeah, that's what I do. I don't have any custom sound mods as of right now, so I don't have this one on. The output device, that's all going towards you. Got female crew's voice, crew country, like you can do that, whatever. I normally put my sound very low because I have other audio mixers that I'm able to mix in with this. So really don't take anything of the values themselves as like something that you need to do. But if I have it at 0, most of the time it's for a pretty good reason. So the values you'll have to figure out on your own. But for me at least, internet, music, radio, I have that 0 because I don't like music. Music volume and menu, I don't like game music at all. I've never found a game other than Halo that has actual good music whenever it comes to actually playing it. Sound effects, have this one up all the way. Other player engines, 100% this one, trust me. My engine, I put it down to 50. Gunfire volume as at 100, so I can hear gun shells going off. Radio chat volume, have it at 50. This is whenever people like spam, attack the D point or whatever. You can actually turn this all the way down if you don't want to hear it. Speech and FMV volume. This one is for the new crew voices that added. Personally, I don't like it, so that's why I have it at 0. But if you really want to, you can put it up a little bit so you're actually able to hear like targets and what they call it and everything. I just don't find it of use. I know you can technically get it to where it tells you like the distances and also the like tank that you're fighting, but I don't really need that at the end of the day. The voice warning system, this is for the Betty thing and also Rita, so put that at a pretty good volume. I have it at 70. RWR used to be very annoying whenever it came to War Thunder because it would always ping on airfield whenever you're taking off, so I put that at about 30. Tenderness, I have that at like 50. And then hangar sounds, I don't have that. I have that off because I don't want to hear stuff within the hangar. And then also play sounds when the game is in background because I tab out a bunch. I do that. And then speed of sound setting, I have that no because what it does is it makes the sound actual speed of sound. So if, like, for example, the biggest one that people know of is the A-10 Warhawk. If you shoot the gun and you hear the sound, you're safe, right? That's like the big meme about that vehicle. But what it does in War Thunder is that it makes it to where you'll get hit, just like in real life, and then you'll have to wait and hear the sound actually hit you. It does it with a bunch of stuff within the game. So if you want to play competitively, you turn this completely off. That's basically all you need to know. Voice warning system on the cockpit, I have that one off just because it is kind of useful to know different things, like especially your fuel. Like playing the F-16C recently, the biggest thing this voice warning system has actually done for me is tell me whenever I'm at like 6 minutes of fuel. So it's really cool that this is a thing, and I do very much love to have that actually on within the game. So after all of that stuff, whenever it comes to the options of War Thunder, it's time to finally go to the controls of War Thunder. So the first thing that I really want to know is that the keyboard and mouse that I have is a very full keyboard and mouse. Like it's not a micro keyboard. If you're playing War Thunder with that, I don't see how you are. There's so many keybinds that you need within this game. And then also, I'm very much consisting of this, that if you have a mouse, get you one, and they're very cheap, by the way. You can find some cheap mouse that have a mouse button 3 and 4, to where you're actually able to use the mouse button to do other things. For me, at least, I use it for my elevators, which makes it to where, at least to me, I fly way better because of that. Now, at the end of the day, you don't really need much peripherals whenever it comes to War Thunder. Like, I would never recommend saying that you need joysticks or you need track IR or anything like that. You can do War Thunder with just a keyboard and mouse, but I highly recommend actually having keyboards that have function keys, and then I also have a numpad, and then having a decent mouse, not an MMO mouse. Like, you can definitely have one of those and do a lot of stuff with it, but having one that has just some extra buttons on it makes this game so much easier to play whenever it comes to War Thunder. Now, the first thing that I do want to know is that if you do want to copy these keybinds and you don't want to go through this by yourself and kind of do everything for it, I have them completely in the Discord where you're actually able to do this. So you'll go into here, you'll put it into like a folder, you'll hit import from file, and it'll say War Thunder Dog for Life keybinds. You click on it, and then it will do everything for you whenever it comes to setting up all these keybinds. So if you want to do that, make sure to do that. And then let's get on to what my keybinds are. So the first thing to know is that you have different modes actually for aircraft that you're actually able to use. I'm going to be using mouse aiming just because that's the one that I prefer. But like, for example, if you go to full realistic controls, if you scroll all the way down for your manual engine controls, you have like a ton of settings. Go to mouse aim, you have 3. So that's the huge difference with that. And their differences are mainly depend on game mode. I do believe like simulator uses either realistic or full real. So that definitely is one of those things to know. And they also go for more like a joystick type of game style. Now, the first one to know is the control mode, mouse aim, control mode and simulator, mouse joystick, virtual instructor. I have it the yes. Toggle control mode. This one's an interesting one because mainly it's a meme, but it can somewhat be useful. If you didn't know within War Thunder, there's this weird thing where if you switch into like realistic controls or full real, within even an ARB game, you get more performance for your aircraft. You normally pull more G's whenever it comes to using your aircraft like that. Now, I have it for right alt. I never really ever use this other than doing it for memes majority of the time. Like the Dragon, for example, this is how you can pull Cobra maneuvers in it, where you use right alt and then go into a different control mode, and it's able to pull a little bit more whenever it comes out. But overall, I just have it for that. It's useful in some aspects, but it's one of those like very advanced things that if you're watching a video on controls, I don't think that you're ready for this yet, but you go ahead and keep on it. Next one is hover mode. This one's for like Harriers and Yak 141s, like the VTOL aircraft where you're actually able to hover with it. To me at least, and this is one of those things, whenever I'm playing VTOL aircraft, if I put it into hover mode, sometimes it actually makes it to where I crash. So I like to play without it majority of the time, unless that I'm like right next to landing or something and I just want it to like level itself out. That's when I usually hit that button. So the next keybind to know is actually your mouse wheel. So your mouse wheel can either do zoom or it can do throttle. I normally like it to do throttle just because it's like my macro throttle. So I'm able to put like my percentages to like 98% or put it to like 97, where some vehicles don't like to overheat. So that's why I have it at that. I have it at 50% whenever it comes to its multiplier. And then for throttle itself, I have my main throttle to W and S. So S key is to slow down, W key is to speed up. And the same thing for this keybind right here, throttle, or hold throttle for WEP. This one's an interesting one because some people like to play with it off. I like to play with it on just because whenever I'm not holding the W key, my WEP is not on, which means that I can't accidentally overheat my engine whenever it comes to War Thunder. There's a lot of people that play with it off where they have their afterburners on or they have WEP just running all the time and they'll forget about it, especially if you like to tab out and go do other things while you're side climbing in props. You can accidentally overheat your engine and completely break it, so that's why I don't ever do it. So my roll axis, it's for the mouse. I believe it's like the defaulted mouse. A and D also controls the ailerons. And then pitch axis, I have this one to my mouse button 5, mouse button 4. And that's where I have it on the side of my mouse where I'm actually able to move the elevator. Elevators in War Thunder are most of the time going to be the most lift that you get, or the most, but let's not even use lift. It's the most maneuverable thing that's going to be on your aircraft majority of the time. There's some aircraft which have really terrible elevators, but whenever you use your elevator, you're going to get the most movement. So that's why I love to have this one as my mouse button 4 and mouse button 5, just because I'm able to do a lot of different things. Like we can take it LA7 right quick and take off with it. And as you can see right here, I can even hold like the C key, and we'll get to this one in the future. Like we can like look around and everything. But like, let's take off real quick. And as you see, if we took off, even though I'm in free camera right now, I'm actually able to move the elevator up and down with my mouse button. And I really do love this because I can sometimes do this and then kill somebody just because I'm able to get my lead out a little bit further than that. But yeah, this is what I prefer whenever it comes to elevator. Being able to do this, like it's what I've been playing with for a very long time. Whenever I got my mouse buttons on a $10 mouse, I do believe back in the day. So this is the way that I really like to play War Thunder, is I have those two on the mouse button. I'm able to pull some really crazy stuff. So yeah, that's what I really enjoy about this. Well, let's get on to the next keybind. So next thing we have here is the yaw axis, which is your rudder. This is this Q&E for me whenever it comes to War Thunder. Q&E is, I think, basic for pretty much everybody, so I think everyone's just going to be running that. The next keybind is thrust vectoring, or thrust vector, and this is for the VTOL aircraft. This is where you're able to move your nozzles to actually take off and all that sort of stuff and turn it into a plane. So this is what those keybinds do. Hover height's basically the same thing. It controls how high that you want to hover whenever in your VTOL mode. The next thing is an invert for aircraft. I don't ever do that. Force feedback. I'm not really sure exactly what this is. I'm assuming it's for like a joystick, but I just have it on for some reason. The next one is Ignite boosters. This one is for your 262s or for vehicles which have boosters that you're able to use. So for example, whenever it comes to, or like not use, but like your Rado. So the Rado recently got some boosters where you're able to use them to take off. So I believe it's on like this one, this variant of it. But what it does is like, we'll spawn this one in. You're able to use these boosters to take off from runways quickly. As you see, they spawned in, we turn them on, we can't turn them off. But if we go to a vehicle like a 262 with the boosters, which are able to turn their boosters on and off, we're actually able to do that. So as we can see right here, we can use the C2B, and let's use this one real quickly. So as you see, booster on, booster off, booster on, booster off. So that's what that keybind does at the end of the day, I think. So the next keybind we have here is the wing sweep and also the wing sweep control mode. This is for like the F-14, the MiG-23s, all the vehicles which have a wing sweep available to them. There is an automatic mode put onto to them already. Really, the only time that you would ever want to use this is if you get into a dogfight with somebody and you want to automatically sweep your wings out so you have a little bit more lift and a little bit more better turn rate. So this is the only reason to ever have them. I have them for my function keys just because I never really touched them that much. They're still available, but they're not in the way of anything, so that's why I have them up there. Next one is toggle flaps. This one does have the F key. I believe it's basic for everybody. If you really want to, you can put on a toggle down and then toggle up, so you can do it manually, but for me at least, F key normally is the best thing to do. And if you want a little bit of a tip, and I know this is a very bad practice I've been playing with for a very long time, is that if I want to do landing flaps, for example, and I don't want to hit the like down keys because I only have one bound right here, I put my gear out for just like a microsecond and then press F. It normally does landing flaps, and that's how I'm able to do that. I know it's a very inefficient way of doing that, but that's how I do it at the end of the day of things. Air brake, I have this one to H and R. I should honestly put H to something else whenever it comes up. Maybe that's what we do. We're doing it live here, guys. We're going to do this right now. We're going to put that to H. So H is down to there. There we go. We fixed something. If you want to copy that, definitely do that at the end of the day. It'll be on the actual thing though. The next thing is thrust reversal. This is only for a particular like 3 planes in the game, I think. It's for the Vigan, the SK-60, and then there's like one more I do believe that has thrust reversal. Oh, the Tornadoes. The Tornadoes have thrust reversal. So that one's out of the way for me because it's on very limited aircraft. So it's cool, but it's not the best in the world. The next thing is toggle gear. This one's for G. I think it's everyone for G because it does go with gear. Drag chute is one of those things that's really cool. So the reason I have it for the 5 key, and I know I have it all G or whatever, is because whenever I land in War Thunder, I rarely ever use gear. So I always pretty much just belly land. But if you didn't know, whenever you're playing War Thunder, you can still use your drag chutes while you belly land, just they won't automatically deploy. So if you press 5 whenever you're landing, you'll be able to actually deploy a drag chute and actually slow down even quicker than you would be just belly landing. So that's pretty cool. It's really something I learned within like the last year of playing. I could actually do that. So next thing is the weaponry, small caliber, large caliber, additional guns. I have them all to left click. The fire machine guns, cannons, I don't have anything assigned to that just because I don't really ever use it. And then fire primary weapons is do this one. Fire secondary is space, which I do believe is going to be like your like bullpups and stuff like that. And then visual weapon selector, I have this one completely off. If you didn't know, I did a video on this. Turn this off. It's not really worth it at the end of the day. Jettison, this is one of those things. So I have this one for an application key. I don't remember exactly what this is. It might be the home button. But this one's cool if you want to get rid of just weaponry, but most of the time you can just drop your bombs. But if like, let's just say that you have sparrows or something like that and you just want to get rid of them because you're getting into a dogfight, this is the keybind that you would put for that. Open bomb bay doors. This is one that is highly underestimated. Put this one on. If you're playing any sort of bomber and it has a bomb bay door, it is so useful to open that bomb bay door before you're actually to your target or to you're going to like bomb somebody with cast. It messes you up so much if you accidentally have to open it up. And then also, let's just say that you bomb a target and then you're like, oh, the other target's like 10 miles away. You can then close your bomb bay door and then you're actually able to get more speed to go to that next bomb thing. It's something I see a lot of people mess up with, but as a keybind that I would highly recommend. Drop bombs I have for space and 3. You'll see why I have it for 3 in a second. Drop bomb series is 5, and that the reason I have that as 5, which is also conflicts with another keybind I do believe. Where was that at? Oh, the drag chute, because they don't ever really use each other, so that's why I use it. The series thing means that you'll drop all the bombs in a series, which means that you'll be able to actually drop all your bombs at one given time. Fire rocket salvo. Why is that one not bound? Okay, there we go. Fire rocket salvo, I have it all, and then fire rocket, I have it at left control. The fire rocket salvo, what it does is whenever you're firing rockets, it fires all of them at once, and it gives you a great area of effect. The big things that use this is like Zunis and also stuff that have like a ton of like rockets, like the SK5s, like firing a lot of them at a single time. This is what you want to use as your rocket salvo. Fire air-to-ground missile. This is for Mavericks and stuff, which I have to space. Fire air-to-air missile. I have a bunch of keybinds for this, but I normally use left control. As you can see, I'm a very disorganized person, but I love to just make these types of videos. The next one is drop guided bombs. I have this one to space and as well as 5, just so I'm able to hit 2 things at once, especially if it's like in a cash roll where I'm having to kind of hit multiple things at once. I know I can hit both of those at the same time. Drop additional fuel tank. So this one is on my numpad on the right side of my keyboard, and I'll hit this if I want to drop the fuel tank, so then I'm able to be lighter with an air. Most of this is for like top tier stuff. The next thing to know is weapon lock. This is air to air. This one is kind of like a redundant keybind. I have this one there just cause, but majority of the time, whenever you're firing your air to air missile, if you hit left control, it will still spool up sidewinders. So this one is not the needed, but you can still kind of use it. I've just never changed it. Weapon lock air to ground. This is mine right here, Alt C. So this is what I use to lock stuff whenever it comes to ground forces, like let's see, GPU-8s and all those sort of like guided bombs and all that sort of stuff. Lock guided bombs, once again, that's space. I believe this is a redundant keybind. So you press space, it'll lock it. A lot of this stuff is redundancy, to be honest. I went through this before this video was actually being made, and went through a bunch of my keybinds and I changed the ones that like didn't make sense. But some of these I just can't change because this is what I've used for a very, very long time. The next one is exit selected weapon mode, left shift Q. I don't think I ever used that keybind. Switch primary weapons. Okay, so this one is a huge one. So I have this one for a weird one. So like, let's show you something right quick. So I think like BF-109s would probably be like the best way to show it off. Let's use the YouTube trop. So if we go into this and we want to change our keybinds right here, see, I'm able to change what, like look at the top of your screen. I'm able to change what cannons they're actually shooting or what MGs they're actually shooting. So right now I'm only shooting MGs. Right now I'm shooting Ollie cannon. And then I hit it one more time, and then it's back to the same thing that it was doing. So that's what that keybind is for. It's made it to where I'm able to shoot different things. And some vehicles, which for example like the F2 Saber, you can actually split up the cannon rounds, which makes it to where you can actually use a lot more whenever it comes to that. So next keybinds that we have here, I'm not really sure what they do, but I never use them. So to be honest, do we actually need them? So secondary weapon quantity, I'm not sure what that does. That's a default keybind. Automatic bomb release in CCRP mode, I'm not really sure what that one does as well. I think it was one that was added onto the recent dev server. No one could really figure out what it did. I've tried it in CCRP, like I've tried everything, and it doesn't seem to like do anything other than just nothing. Next one is switch countermeasures. This one, honestly, I would completely just remove. I should have removed it already. I believe I didn't remove it because of the video I made on it. The next one is switch IRCM off. There's only like 2 vehicles that have this as of right now. And to be quite honest with you, it's not even worth keybinding unless you really love to play your SU-39 premium. And then at the end of the day with that one, it's like, why would you turn it off? Other than maybe you want to bait like somebody to shoot a missile at you and then you turn it on while the missile's coming at you or something, because it does mess up some of that stuff. The next one is fire countermeasures. This one I completely got rid of because now we have fire flares and fire chaff. So for me, I have it for left shift for flares, because I'm more likely going to be in a scenario where I need to use my flares. So left shift is very convenient to actually hit. And then Z is right beside shift. And that will mean that I'm able to do it at range, because chaff, most of the time you're going to be at a pretty decent range whenever you're having to like notch and chaff radar missiles. So that's what I have for those. The next one that we have here is periodic countermeasures. I never use this because, like, yeah, once again, it just wastes your countermeasures and worth it. This one's actually pretty decently one to at your keybind, which is you're slaving to MAW or MAV. The reason I would do this one is because whenever you're shot at with a missile, like for example in F111, your flares would just start dumping by themselves. And it uses way too much, especially if you get shot at with like an AIM-9B. You've shot like probably 20 flares off whenever you just need like 1 or 2 pops to get rid of that missile. So yeah, definitely one of those. If you're playing those aircraft, turn them off and just use your flares like you normally would. So next keybind to look at here is the yaw axis for aimed weapons and pitch axis for aimed weapons. Both of these basically do the same thing, but the reason I have 2 keybinds is because I like using 2 keybinds just because I really can. So I got it Alt A, Alt S, Alt D, Alt W, and then also have on my arrow keys up, left, right, and down. So the reason I have that is because sometimes I like to play with it with the arrow keys, and sometimes I like to play with the WSD keys. The things that this does is it goes after the bullpups, the Nords, the missiles that are shot off that you're able to control from the air. Now, the one thing I do recommend is that you can actually go in here, is that I would definitely recommend turning this on or turning off relative control. Do you believe? You're turning off relative control, which makes it to where you're able to like do these way better, and it's pretty cool. The next one is toggle laser designator. The reason I have this one as a keybind is because of the A6E tram. The reason I had this is because you would fire your GBUs at like a Type 90 or like vehicles that have laser warning receivers. I'm just going blank with vehicles right now, but laser warning receivers. The reason why is because you could turn off your laser designator and it would go down towards the target. You would turn it on right before the thing was about to hit, and then they wouldn't have enough time to move away from it, and they wouldn't be able to just smoke out and then know that they're getting tracked by something. It was something that I always did. It's on my 7 key for my numpad, so that is what I have for there. But it's not really useful at the end of the day. I think most vehicles you can just fire your GPUs at and it'll hit them and kill them. But vehicles with laser warning receivers, you'll definitely see them just pop smoke as soon as they get the little bomb going towards them. The next one, this is the big one here, is radar stuff. This is going to be a very complex thing because it's a ton of things. So now, most of these keybinds that I use for my radar is for the numpad. The numpad is my radar central of stuff. I like it. That's the way that I run it. I know there's probably better ways to do it. I know some people use the numbers on the top of their keyboard, but for me at least, the numpad is where I use my radar stuff. So the first one we're going to look at is actually the switch radar IRC search on and off. So this one for me is my number delete key. So my numpad and the delete key. The reason I like to have this one is because I don't accidentally hit it while trying to do other keybinds. Whenever it comes to radar, it's very much out of the way and it just turns the radar on and off. The next one is switch between radar and IRST mode. This one is for my plus key on my numpad. And once again, it's kind of out of the way, so I don't actually hit this. It's a keybind that most vehicles don't have to really use because they don't have an IRST mode, but for like if you're playing Russian planes, for example, it's one that you very much would need to use. The next one is change radar IRST mode. This one is 3 key on my numpad. And this one changes the mode of trend. So TWS, track while scan, all that sort of stuff like the post Doppler. All of your radar modes will go into this keybind right here, and you just hit it until you get to the mode that you need or that you need to use. The next one is the beyond visual range, within visual range combat. This is your ACM mode, so your advanced combat maneuvers, I believe it's called. So the reason you would want this one is if you're in very close range, you just press the 9 key on a numpad and it brings up a thing, and once something goes into the box on the aircraft, and I'll show it in a little clip right here, you'll actually see that it just completely locks the aircraft because it's just close enough to you. So this one is very much needed, especially if you're getting into War Thunder whenever you're going into the top tier of the game. The next one is change radar IRST search mode. This one is 2 for me, number 2 on the numpad. What this does is it actually changes the field of view that your radar has. So like, let's say that you want it to scan a smaller wave, like as a wave going throughout there. You would press this button and it would shrink the amount that it's actually going to scan, which means that it's going to give more constant updates within that area. But then also, let's just say that you don't know where your targets are at. You may want to open that field of view up to then where you're able to view a lot of area of the map. So then you're able to see a lot of different things. So that's why this one is useful, because you're able to change the way that your radar kind of looks at the battlefield. The next one is the radar scope scale. This one is for how far away it is, not the length of it. So this one, if you let's say that you're in the F-16C, as you can see right here, you're actually able to change it to, I believe it's 37 kilometers, and then you're able to go out to even 100 and something. I'm not really sure on the map. Don't really know at the end of the day the exact number, but that's what it does. It increases the range that your radar is actually able to see within the game. And then this one is one that I've actually done recently, which is select radar IRST target to lock. This one is my middle mouse button clicking it in. And what this does is whenever you're in TWS mode, you're actually able to switch targets and you actually just shoot at different aircraft. So this is what I use that for. It's one of the keybinds I've learned about recently and where I'd want to put it. So this one is one that I would recommend as well. And then here's the only keybind for my radar that I do love to have whenever it comes to my left side of the keyboard, which is caps lock. This is for locking targets. This is the one that I really love to hit over there because it's just good for me. That's where I like it. I know some people don't like caps lock because whenever you go to like type a Discord message or something, it's in all cap, but I kind of get over that at the end of the day of things. Now, these couple down here, I don't use much at all. I do use this one though, the horizontal control thing, where you're actually able to move your radar to different areas of the thing. So you can actually make it smaller, but then move it to the left or move it to the right. And you're able to see just a little bit of area. I don't use it much, but it is useful in some aspects of it. So yeah, that's what I'd use at the end of the day of things. Now, this one is these two right here. I don't use it all, so I'm not really going to comment on them. This is shroud music. If you don't know what shroud music is, it is probably something that you've never heard of and probably never played of. I don't even have a keybind for this, so we'll just use insert. That's the one that I'm going to put this on. But if you don't know what it is, if you go to Germany, and I believe, like, even if you don't have Germany, like, hang on, is this vehicle in, okay, there we go. JU388. This is a vehicle anyone can test drive. You can try your shroud music out on this thing. So what it is it's the guns that you can see pointing up from the side right there. So as you can see right there, we press the shroud music and we're able to shoot up in the air. So that's all this is at the end of the day. It's not a huge investment keybind that I would ever have, but it is worth to have, especially, like, I'm surprised Gaijin has never did a battle pass challenge where they're like, hey, you gotta use shroud music to get some kills. So yeah, that's shroud music. Overall, not that useful, but the cool thing about it is you can shoot out bombers with it. Reload guns, why? This is more of an arcade thing. Toggle cannon ballistic computer. This is a keybind that you do need. I have this for the keys that are beside M, so the ones to the right of that. I'm not really sure what they're called. I think it's like the colon and then also a period, I guess is what you'd call them. But yeah, that's what I have in that. Switch cockpit mode. I don't have this one because I use the multifunction menu for that, and I'll show you what that is towards the end of the video. The next one is the switch mission bombing target. This is for the CCIP stuff. So this is switching the target to different areas and then activate and then also deactivate target points is my function key. Sight stabilization I have for 0. I don't believe I ever use this because I don't ever remember hitting this. Disable sight stabilization, don't use it because alt and then right click, I don't never use that. And then designate a team target, not really sure what that is either. Toggle gunners, this one's pretty useful if you play within like custom games. Like let's say that you're doing a custom battle where you don't want to shoot the enemy or you don't want your AI gunners to do that, you can toggle this to something and then you're able to do it. I just don't have it because for one, I don't really ever do that much, so that is the end of the day thing. So here we go, the camera controls. This is what I have, V, just V, and it toggles the view through all these. You don't really need any of this at the like War Thunder peak. Like just put V and then toggle through until you get to the view that you want to go to. The next one that I don't have is don't have many of these. It's tracking U, so yeah, tracking camera bomb torpedo. I have it for you. Do we have tracking? Yeah, I don't use tracking enemy. I don't use any of that sort of stuff. So yeah, this is what it is. Test camera. Honestly, don't use much of it. Acrobatic smoke. I have the L. I don't use any of the open cockpit lighting. This is more of a multi-function menu, and I'll kind of show you what that is in a second. The next one is auto strict control. Okay, so this one is one that you actually need to turn off. So this is instructor. Instructor can be good for people who don't know what they're doing, but if you play with instructor and you feel like you know what instructor does, it is going to be one of those things that kind of hinders you. So what this does is it controls your aircraft for you. Yeah, like if you get too close to the ground, it'll try to make you not crash and stuff. But there's a huge but to this, is that it doesn't let you do some stuff that maybe you'll need to do. Like let's say that you're playing within top tier, the AIM-120 is shooting at you, and you need to get very close to the ground. It's 60 meters right now that you have to get to where it multipath and starts to work for you. So if you're getting close to the ground and your instructor takes over and then completely just throws you out of the way and you get hit by the AIM-120, that is bad, right? So that's why I would definitely recommend taking off the instructor. Even though you take off a bunch of the instructor stuff, you will still have stuff that like kind of impacts the instructor in a way. It's kind of hard to describe to you, but overall, just play with it off. Just learn how to play with it off and you'll do way better within the game. So yeah, we have aiming right here. Once again, it's just the mouse stuff. I don't believe I've ever changed any of this. Toggle engine is I. Prop feathering I don't have, and then toggle extinguisher is the 6th key. So right now I'm going to show you guys what the multifunction menu is. I do believe it is in common and it will be here, multifunction menu. So it's Y for me whenever it comes to my keybinds. And what it does is like, let's just turn off the engine here so I can hear a little better. But you press Y and it open up all this. And what it does is it makes it to where you have multiple keybinds into just this menu. So right now For example, if I want to go to my cockpit, I press 6, and then I press 5 up here, and it will close the cockpit. So as you can see right there, it makes a lot of keybinds, which is the redundant keybinds, like for example, having lighting and all that sort of stuff where you don't really need a cockpit. Like as we can see right there, I can even turn the side off whenever it comes to that, and also turn it back on. So it's one of those things that I like to enjoy and use whenever it comes to this. You can even do like crazy stuff. Like you can actually split engines if you have multiple engines and everything. You can use it for weaponry. You can toggle ballistic computers and do all that sort of stuff. So it is definitely something to know of whenever it comes to keybinds, because it can save you a ton of them, especially for the ones that you maybe will hit like once or twice per game. So next keybinds we're going to go over here are the helicopter ones. I'm not going to go through them in big detail. These are just the ones that I currently have as of right now. You can copy them, you can change them, you can probably criticize my helicopter abilities of these are probably some of the worst keybinds you've ever seen. And to be quite honest with you, I would agree, because I don't play helicopters enough to even warrant me actually going through these and giving my like informed opinion on it. I believe there's probably other people who are way more qualified than me in doing this, but we can do ground forces because I do love this. So the first one is automatic transmission. I know some people who like to play with it off and actually like do the transmission of their tanks. I don't recommend it, just keep it on. So next keybinds we have here are the ground vehicle throttle and ground vehicle steering. Once again, this is WSD. Basically, pretty much everyone's going to be running this. I don't think anyone's going to actually have that. Short brake, I don't ever use. I believe this is kind of like a braking thing to shoot better, but yeah, I just never used it. But it's one of those things you can always do. Ground left brake, ground right brake. Once again, two things I never used within the game. Transmission control, I use this one quite a bit, especially at the start of games where I want to go do something else. Maybe I need to like get something to drink or something like that. So it is E and Q. You're able to use those two, and you're actually able to do that. Driver assistant mode, I don't use that as well. The whole aiming, this is for vehicles like the STRV 103s and vehicles like the VT1. Vehicles which need the whole aiming, so it's on mouse button 4 for me. It's one of those that contradicts with a lot of keybinds that I have, so I definitely recommend like changing this one. But I just keep it there because it is what it is. The next one is turn engine on and off. This one's I for me. Very useful if you want to stay hidden whenever it comes to playing in ground forces. Now this one's where we get to the meat and potatoes of ground forces, actually the weaponry. So the first one is fire main cannon, left click. Fire from secondary guns is mouse button 4. As you can see, it contradicts already with this one. Fire from special guns, fire from machine guns, space. Fire from special guns, mouse button 4. And then that's what I normally do. I don't do any of the select, like primary, select, secondary. This is just how I play the game. Select machine gun, this is a pretty interesting one, and it's one that I don't use enough, and I should actually use it probably a good bit. Like I think the M60 AMPT we can actually use it on. But what this keybind does is it actually makes it to where you're able to control independently your machine guns. So as we can see right here, I can control the M350 cal with this. Then I'm also able to control the little like 25mm turret on top. So it makes it to where you're independently able to control these. And especially since if you want to like use this, for example, to use it to kill a tank, as you can see, it actually gets the sight that you're able to use to actually hit targets with, which is pretty cool. So highly one of those things to recommend. I should actually use it a lot more whenever it comes to War Thunder, but definitely one of those that you should keybind. So next thing on the list is whatever this keybind is. I don't think I ever use it because of Alt F, and I don't think I'll ever use Alt F for like anything. Next one is auto turrets. Not sure what this one does either. Question mark. Maybe it's the I would have to check it, but I don't really know what it is. Maybe it's the APS system, like the after protection system, like turning it on and off. Maybe manual target and auto turret. Not sure. Maybe it's probably not. Then IRCM mode. This one's pretty much worthless. Turn off. Smoke grenades, I have it for G. Smoke screen, I have for H. And then change your rate of fire. Well, yes, it can be like a gimmick thing, especially on like the BMP2s. I don't ever use it. Next shell type, I don't use either. And then weapon lock, Alt X is the one I use for that. Switch guidance method is Alt L. This is for like the Strela for using like contrast lock and everything. So definitely one of those that you want to have on if you're using some of those SPAs. The next one is switch radar on and off. This one is Alt R for me. So if you want to, for example, use like your Gepard or any of those SPAs which actually have like radars and stuff, you can actually store the radar, which makes it a little bit harder of a target to hit. Other than that, I don't have any of the other like radar stuff enabled. Like if I don't have anything keybind, I don't ever use it. So it's probably not a best practice. I probably should learn about what all this stuff is, but I've been playing War Thunder for so long that most of the stuff doesn't affect me. So I don't ever really care to actually do any sort of stuff like this. Lock is the Alt and F. This one's very important to use, especially if you have a radar, you're able to lock stuff with it. Night vision mode, the same thing as thermals. I have it as Z and also have it as that button. That's the like legacy keybind I used to use. But Z is very convenient for me to hit because whenever you're playing with thermals, I really love to play it where I'm like turning it on and off because I don't want to be in thermal view all the time. So I normally like to press Z a lot to kind of just spot something, turn off thermals, and then fire at it. So that's sometimes what I do. IR spotlight, I don't think that's ever useful, but it's pretty cool. And then Commander Fire Control. So this is a keybind that I don't use pretty much ever. Like I don't use it at all. And I really probably should, but I don't ever find like uses for it. So what it is, because Dog forgot the 120S doesn't have it, is that you're able to go into this view, which is a commander view. You can turn on thermals, you can turn on night vision, I do believe, for some of them. But the thing about it is that it's this little camera thing up top right there. I'm not really sure if you can see it, but this thing right there. It's that thing. That's what you basically take control over. And you can actually do some cool stuff, like turn it to where you can actually shoot from this mode. So you can actually range find, and then you can fire. Now, the thing about it is I do believe, like, for example, like with the Bradley, the zoom isn't the best. But yeah, you can hit it. You can also shoot AT gems out of it, I do believe. So yeah, you can shoot AT gems. But what it really does good, and the real reason that it's kind of good on the Bradley, is that it's taller than the whole vehicle. As you can see, it does stick up a good bit compared to the gun view. See, we're a little bit taller than what we could be on the gun view. So it is pretty useful at that, but overall, I don't ever find myself actually using commander view pretty much at all. So back onto the keybinds, we have the zoom, which is used for right click. We use the sniper mode, which is V, and then that is like my gunner view, right? I don't ever have a driver camera. Don't really ever stand useful for it. My binoculars is different from what most people put it on, which is the B key. I have it on N because B for me is my push to talk whenever it comes to Discord. So I definitely changed that over to that. So that's what that is. Commander sight, which we were just using, is that. Stabilizer mode, to be honest, I have it keybound, but I think it was just for a meme. There's not really ever a reason in War Thunder to turn off your stabilizer whenever it comes to tanks. But yeah, here's all the other settings whenever it comes to the mouse stuff, and then also what I use for this mouse wheel is zoom for me. I don't ever use it for sight distance control, even though I should. We'll go over that in a second, but now let's go to suspension control. So suspension control is interesting because it's only used on a select few vehicles like the MBT-70, XM1, the Type 74s, the Type 90s. Mainly, if you're going to be using this, is for Japan. And the reason you want to use this is because you're able to move your suspension up and down. This is hydropneumatic suspension. So what you can do is you can lean left, you can lean right, you can lean forward, you can lean back, and then you can also go up and down to make your tank smaller, and you can make it taller. So that's what all these keybinds do right here. I have mine mainly on the arrow keys, and then decreased clearance is number 3, increase is 6, and then center to suspension is number delete, and then also these two as well. So that's what I have for that, and then that is overall what I like to use. Here's the other one for miscellaneous, ground repair, U. I think these are all basically the ones that is normal. UAV, I basically never changed it. The only one I don't have is like this one down here. The only one that really is needed to know out of like all of these is sight distance control, and down at the bottom. This one is very useful for actually determining where you need to put your crosshair on. For me at least, I use my mouse whenever it comes to mouse button 4 and 5 to actually shoot at different tanks whenever it comes to doing sight distance control. I know some people can do other things whenever it comes to this keybind, but overall, that's what I highly do recommend. Next, we're going to be looking at naval. These are all my naval keybinds. I'm not really ever going to go through these because I've not really changed any of them from whatever War Thunder has defaulted them to be. I don't really think I've ever changed any of them. So yeah, there they are if you really want to look at them. The next one is going to be common. So this is the ones that are pretty useful. So definitely multi-function menu. You need to have this, leave the vehicle, J out. Tactical map, statistics. Is there anyone that I've like changed here? I don't think I've changed much at all whenever it comes to the common stuff. So yeah, I don't think there's much left whenever it comes to this yet. We do have all this sort of stuff, but yeah, that's overall the big things about this spectator. Is if you're looking to do something like that in the future, that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, overall, this is the War Thunder video going over all of these studies of keybinds. I believe this video is now at an hour long, so if you definitely stay to the end of this video, it is very much appreciated. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And if you want to get these keybinds, remember they will be on the Discord in the channel. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And I'll see you guys in the next War Thunder video.